Asmon interview. Oh, yes. As Kat, Danny, and Daily Dose like to go with their titles.
Yep. Oh, their Overwatch titling has been really fun recently. It's like, it was Overwatch 2, and then the next video was Overwatch 3, and the next one's Overwatch 4. You're like, fuck, that's actually funny.
So, one of the questions was the biggest success of Shadowlands, and they said that for them it was just making something brand new, feeling like they've mined out a lot of the lore and settings from Warcraft 3 onwards, and the biggest question for each expansion is, where's left for us to go? You know, we have a few videos on that if they ever...
If ever want some ideas, yep.
That's it, Telebeam. We need a whole expansion. It'll be called Banana Lands. It'll be great. Okay, but they say there's a lot of realizations that they came to because of community feedback over Shadowlands 9.5 and on, or 9.1.5 and onwards, and that these are things that will change World of Warcraft for the better forever. It was also in the response to this that he kind of said, say what you will about Sylvanas and the Jailer, which was acknowledging player sentiment towards that, which I think is good. He also said, how fun is the content that you're going to have to do to replay it multiple times. That's the sort of thing they're thinking about. Mm-hmm. And the less it is, the more they want to make it optional. So good stuff. Now, as we move on to dragon riding in combat, basically... nothing planned right now. Might happen. They want to do a solid oh my god, I can't even speak today. They want to do a solid foundation first, understand how it plays out, what the strengths and the weaknesses are, before they try to incorporate it into content. What I'd say there is that if it is an instant mount, like how mounting is in Guild Wars 2, then you could maybe have players jump from platform to platform on their dragons in a raid encounter. They could really cool. They could maybe use that, not trying to make a big Malagos style combat system for these mounts, but perhaps just cool bit of traversal and some theming, and then there'll be that one person in your guild who can't play Frogger and has only played WoW and never any other form of video game that just can't deal with momentum or physics, and everyone can laugh at them. Yeah, just like your Iminar experience.
Exactly. So the first thing I always think, or the first thing I thought of here was the I can't remember its name, but the underwater fish boss from Ashara's Eternal Palace, where you're going between the platforms swimming. So it's like all of a sudden, if you have, if this boss fight's taking place over the, maybe, I don't know how it would work, but say you're in a big place, like almost like the zone with all the spires and stuff, and then suddenly, you have to jump from one platform, you have to dragon ride to the other. Well, okay, just getting to the other platform, they can't make getting to the other platform very hard, that'll be a bit annoying, especially because you have people will need different unlocks and stuff. But if you make it so, okay, if you get there faster, you have an inherent benefit. Maybe the boss is like a damage taken increase for a period of time, and if you get there faster, you get more damage. Or maybe there's like rings that because obviously everyone likes flying through rings in every video game.
Big.
You just fly through the rings.
Superman 64.
Yeah, they're out of the way. You fly. You swing left away to the outside, then come back in, get a couple rings for like a 10%, 20% damage buff. All of a sudden, you've got a mini game in an encounter that ties into how you fly around the world, which means you're going to feel basically like a badass. Yeah. If you do it better than other people. I think that's the kind of possibility space you open up if this like works. And that stuff is like, it's not in combat, but it might as well be. Especially if you have entrances. Like the idea of you dragon riding, really like just properly nosediving to a boss encounter, jumping off at the end and then starting to fight again. That stuff's just like...
it feels feel cool. Yep. It's that thing. It's a video game. Spectacle matters.
Yeah.
Fantasy matters. Actually, Theus, who's been a member for 2 months, I think puts it well. It wasn't a super long interview, but it's one of the best ones. Like, it felt super genuine.
Oh yeah, it's like
that was an important thing as well. They're coming across better in these interviews.
Yeah, that was not the lawyer in people always joke about. That was in the game director, seemingly unshackled largely by PR, and I was like, that's why we got some really good answers on loot and add-ons and stuff that I genuinely wasn't expecting. I was genuinely kind of stunned. I was like, what world are we living in that he's saying all this stuff? Jesus.
Yeah. Now, another good thing is for outdoor content, basically imagine an expansion of Zereth Mortis is Sort of, basically they said Zereth Mortis was just one zone. They're looking to build an entire continent and expansion with those philosophies and approaches. I believe you mentioned protoform synthesis in and around that line as well. So I guess just expect for zones to have mechanics and things that are themed around the zone and the people in the zone. And then what was really good to me is he recognized that they've underserved basically a perhaps quiet majority of players.
Huge.
And I think that was huge. One of the things we've been railing against for ages is the world quests are a bit shit, that they have not pushed forward that aspect of the game. And frankly, if that's how you want to play WoW, it's just play Guild Wars 2 instead. It's actually designed for you to have fun doing that. So between Jeremy Fiesel saying that they've staffed up the size of their outdoor content team, and then Ian recognizing that they've really underserved perhaps a majority, that's kind of big. You're just saying that this is for the people who don't want to top the meters, push keys, or do PvP raiding. They just want to explore, chill, and feel at home in the world. And it's that thing where I think these things of the meters and the keys and everything, those are only good and they're only meaningful, at least for someone like me, if they are in the context of feeling at home in that world, because that world is where those achievements take place in. That's what makes them matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So they want to do a lot more for those people in Dragonflight.
Yeah. I would say there is one small part of that I don't want to nitpick everything, but the idea of people who want to explore, chill, and feel at home in the world is don't forget that those players also need to have fun in a way that's I don't want to say challenging, but you do require a little bit of challenge to feel a little bit engaged sometimes. It's not I don't want her to be going around picking flowers, only picking flowers. It's have a little opportunity for someone to have engaging bits of combat in the world as well. I mean, I'm sure they planned for that, and that's just how this came across. But it's I don't want the dichotomy of, here's the players who play about gameplay doing the gameplay, and then here's the players who don't care about gameplay doing the world content. That dichotomy, I think, would be pretty dangerous, and it would siphon off the player base entirely instead of blending them together nicely. Yeah.
I imagine they'll try there based on what Fiesel said about events and activities to participate in and the outdoor world content team being a bit bigger. I very much hope for that. Now, another thing then, Battlegrounds and War Mode. Again, I'd say not as far as I would want, but good. Though I could be mixing this up between the link interview with Mr. GM as well. But basically, they do want to add more Battlegrounds and they want to add more War Mode. So that's great to me. I very much would prefer BGs to Arena. It's just because I like objective game modes other than, just kill people. But the current focus, though, is on gearing in PvP. They want to make that a lot better than it's been, and it seems like they're making good progress towards that goal. And then also the rated solo shuffle, so that there is solo queue Arena for people to do. For War Mode, then, basically Ian said that really it's less about them building things inside War Mode and more about creating organic situations. And his example for that is absolutely the one that comes to my mind first. It's the Faction Assaults patch 8.1, where you turn War Mode on, you go to the Faction Assault location to do the War Mode quests, or the world quests that appear during the assault, and you just see other players as you're doing that. And it just was a natural place where players would meet each other, actual skirmishes would happen, and for the few nights that I was doing that, it was fun.
Indeed.
Yeah. Now on BGs. They want to add more. They want to add more BGs, but before that, they need to do work overhauling their current battleground system, so that makes sense. Examples were there we have so many maps in the map pool. If we just put another one in, people won't even see it that much. They want to maybe think about doing a rotation of things, which could be good. In my head, I'd almost like a few different playlists. I want there to be enough maps that I could do a capture the flag playlist, control playlist, something like that. I understand how there could be issues with dividing it up like that, because where do you put Komogu as an example? Sounds good. It just does not sound like a 10.0 thing.
Yeah, it's...
And actually, even the topic of rated... solo queue rated came up, and it was a similar situation where it's this sounds good, we'd like this in the team, but there's other things we got to do.
Yeah, I think that's one of the unfortunate things for how World of Warcraft's largely developed is you see oh sorry, this isn't really on the thing, and Next expansion then. Because I don't know when the last time they've added like a major kind of feature, like a major overhaul for Battlegrounds, like a 0.1 or a 0.2. Because they tie so much expansion stuff to it. And that's kind of annoying. They were like, okay, here we go, never. Here you go, it's 11.0. Maybe 12.0 for like really good like Battleground stuff. Like, that's far away.
Till then, it's more brawls.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to continue making brawls for Dragonflight. Yeah, look, it is what it is. I would like more there. I feel like some of this is happening because they have... they've had to fix the foundations of WoW. So a lot of work's probably going to have to go into talents and professions. And perhaps the work that hit the two of those could be hitting Battlegrounds and housing in the next expansion or something. Okay, other things then. Item level bloat, power creep. Basically just saying that not having borrowed power will help keep the power creep in check. Definitely good. Then also just some philosophy about loot. If a piece of loot from a brand new encounter with new mechanics and challenges to overcome is only a marginal upgrade over what you got in the previous patch, then it doesn't feel like much of a reward. So essentially the amount of item level increase that goes on, they do feel they need that for the new gear to actually feel rewarding. But they also don't really like a situation where there's too many razor corals going on.
Yeah.
Sure. And then with item level squishes, it's that situation where they could slow down player power growth and have to do less squishes, but it wouldn't feel as rewarding. Or they could keep things as they are now, and maybe every 2 expansions they need to do a squish. A bit tricky. I think I'd be okay with a little bit less power creep, but maybe they just have numbers that we don't. Yeah. So on that thing for items for previous raid tiers, so it's like, say, the example of farming Sylvanas daggers in the current patch doesn't really feel great. Same went on for the Razor Coral. So they basically just want, they don't want to send people like back into Sanctum of Domination to get something.
Yeah, I think that's
So they're open to having a couple of outliers, but they kind of just don't really want to. They want that to happen too much.
Yeah, I think that's very much like that's a relic of a bygone era in terms of how the game's played, and it used to be how it is. Now it's not how it is, and to get back to how it is would be just take so much effort and there'd be so much damage done in the process. Because it's like you'd have to like a half it's like it's a chicken and egg situation where the reason going to do Sanctum for Sylvanas Dagger is the pain in the ass is that no one wants to do Sanctum. One, because it's the old raid, 2, because there's nothing in it for them. So you could solve it by making them not do it, or solve it by filling it full of stuff, and then people are just doing it loads again. But given the fact that their solution to the Mythic Plus problem is to rotate old stuff in, and then keep for the dungeons for later on, then I think that's the answer of, we don't want you to do, or we don't want you to need to do old stuff. Yeah. We want to make that like a thing you can do if you want, or save it for when we're out of content, but we want you engaging in new content mostly, which I think is generally fair. I mean, I would like to see something like a roulette where it's just, here's an old raid from an expansion that's like, whatever, maybe that's part of time walking or something, and like cubable and fun in that sense of here's a little daily bonus for it, but generally in terms of doing the current content, I think that's fine.
Yeah. Now for the big thing, Master Loot.
That was such a great bit on the interview.
I kind of do want to bring Master Loot back, but the team don't.
That's candor we've never seen before.
Yeah. No, I do need to break that down. I think it's less that the team don't want to do it, and more that there's a bunch of implementation problems around having 2 versions of loot.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So in terms of like code, UI, stuff like that, they actually had to maintain 2 versions of loot during Legion. They basically wanted to tear it down and build a new foundation for group looting, which of course is the personal loot system. But over the years, they've iterated, but Ian said there's problems. Tradable, what's tradable, what isn't tradable, what's the clarity in that?
It's impossible to know.
Ian says it's bad. Ian says the idea of, technically an item level upgrade, but can't give it to your friend, that's bad. I remember being honestly kind of furious at WoW during 8.3 when I didn't really need a weapon that I got. Nikki really did need a weapon. Ongoing joke in our guild that he never gets weapons. I couldn't trade him the weapon. I was really pissed off.
And rightly so.
Yeah. So it's good that is actually being acknowledged by them.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had that very recently where we had to play some insane stuff to get around a tier trading restriction that required someone going and hopping out mid-raid to go to the creation catalyst, and that would have solved the problem. We're like, fuck, this is so brutal.
That's so wild.
Yeah, literally just sorry, can't trade you tier because I was gonna make my higher item level legs in the tier, but then I didn't before raid. Whoopsie, sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're like, that's just not right.
Like as a solve for Race to World First Guild's going mad with all the cross realm stuff and all the split runs, you also acknowledged that's just got worse. So yeah, look, game director said he wants to bring it back, but also said, here's all the problems we face. So they're taking a hard look and trying to work out what they're going to do. But the problem is they've spent the last 6 years working on these foundations, so they can't really just flip a switch and make it the way it used to be. There's a bunch of technicalities that you don't really think of until you try to think deeply about how a loot table actually works.
Yeah.
So while there is room for personal loot in open world content, trash for dungeons, raids and stuff, there are challenges when we try to, try to resolve this issue for boss drops, right? So essentially, like, what would happen if personal loot means that your guild will never get something that can't be used, technically.
Yeah,
it might get
very technically,
yes.
Yeah, very technically.
So you're not going to get, like, no one is going to get a weapon that's not for their spec.
Yes.
Hopefully, or at least class, right?
Yes.
Like, we don't have a hunter. Why did you give us a bow? That'll never happen with personal loot.
Yeah.
If master loot was to come back, then that would, in a way, almost need to be something that could happen. Well, because then we're not. Well, the issue then is, if it is following personal loot, and that personal loot is smart and ensures the loot can be usable by people, then you just start stacking shit. And then use master loot to make the stacking super powerful. And then that can be a problem. So there's like a bunch of these implementation, just sort of areas of minutia that they would need to get right to do this.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
Yeah, that's fundamentally my problem, like, all the time. Whenever it comes to all this stuff, they're like, yeah, we can't really do this because this is a problem. To me, I'm just like, well, like, when's a problem your responsibility? When's it not? So much of the time, like, especially like before this expansion announcement, so much of stuff has felt like excuses from them. Where it's like, well, this is a problem we can't solve. It's like, it's literally you're being paid. You're all being paid six-figure salaries to not have problems. How do you still have problems? Make the problem go away. That's your job. And obviously that's very simplifying stuff. There's definitely going to be problems they can't solve. But it's like whenever it's kind of used as a PR bit, or like, oh, sorry, we can't do that because there's problems. Like, solve the problem. And that's where I felt like that on loot a lot of the time.
Fair.
Where it's like, just solve the problem. It's like, oh yeah, well, it's exactly where it's like, oh, well, master loot would, back in the day have dropped a bow that no one can use. You're like, make it not. Like, obviously there's technical stuff involved, but just make it not. Just make master loot kind of smart. There you go. Problem solved.
Kind of smart, but not too smart.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there's minutia, but it's like that's their job to sort the minutia.
Yeah. I like your tell stacked groups to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, so that's exactly kind of it for me. It's just that case of, players, instead of punishing me for what World First Raiders do, tell them to fuck off. Simple, not fuck off, go play another game, but tell them, no, this is not going to work. Your way of trying to get around how we limit loot is not going to work. Because they're finding exceptions to gameplay. And that's a case of, okay, well, they're finding interesting uses of game mechanics. Sometimes that's fine. Sometimes interesting use of game mechanics is Saronite bombing Arthas' platform.
Yeah.
And then you get your guild banned. Or like, I don't want to say ban them, but it's a case of you should be able to find solutions that are guilds can't go out of their way to do degen shit to get loot. And also players don't feel like they're being fingered whenever they kill a boss. That's probably quite hard to do. But I mean, the very simple idea that is going to have loads of problems, of course. I'll admit that. But it's like, bring X unique classes to get more loot from the boss. And that's like, okay, well, it doesn't have to be, unique classes. It would have to be unique, like, classes that use armor classes. But that's a case of, if you have a raid that's healthily populated with leather, mail, and cloth, well, leather, plate, and cloth, let's say, then you won't get a bunch of mail, and you'll get extra items that'll make up for it. You have to design it so that's the intended experience. But you can't do that with combat balance, because combat balance won't matter to a bunch of mythic guilds doing heroic clears. So you have to make it like literally the system just says, no, that's not how it works. You get bonus loot if you don't stack armor class.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing where that, like, it's an awkward implementation, but I feel like they completely, that's one possible solution. And it's like, please do something like this, because loot feels pretty bad. That's where I'm coming from anyway.
Agreed. And I guess my other little addendum in loot is basically just we're all going to be playing more alts, because you're not making it a horrendous experience.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Because it's like your max level, all you need is gear, and then you can do your thing. That's it. Right? There's nothing to earn. There's nothing to grind. So surely they can feel way more confident. Just fucking double raid loot.
Please.
It like they could just do something like that. It's that weird situation where it's like you're a fucking normal or heroic raider. Where's your best loot coming from? Mythic plus Great Vault.
Yeah, like how many people are Mythic raiders of the percentage of the population?
Yeah.
Why is the entire loot system of Mythic Plus designed around them?
Just
that is bullshit. That is genuinely, for the vast majority of players of World of Warcraft, that is utter horseshit and needs to change.
Yeah, I'd almost okay. You know what? If you were doing more Crucible of Storms like gear, do that. Double the amount of drops.
Please, yep.
Whatever. It doesn't matter if someone finishes their character in 5 weeks, if they have 2 or 3 characters and are really enjoying the game, because they can swap between their characters and their specs and all of that stuff a lot more liberally than they could in Shadowlands.
Yeah,
I think that's ultimately the thing.
Yeah, that's something that I've been enjoying a little bit in FF, just being able to go, oh, what'll I do today? Oh, I'll play something else. I'll play a different thing. Some of that's because like the gearing's not really super important to me there, but it's like even in WoW, it's like we were doing some Mythic Plus last night and I was like, okay, I'm healing, sweet. But I know there was someone off spec who would be happy to heal. And I was thinking, oh man, if only I had, and the reason I don't have a rogue ready to play with is because I straight up couldn't be bothered going through all the hoops to get to like 260 or so. Yeah. Because that's where my druid's at, and that's what most other people I was playing with was at. I would love to just be able to go, just get my rogue. Okay, well, if it takes me a couple of days to get the 260, and then I can play and like slowly go up there, but it's like, I have to get the 260, which is because I'm because I'm not a super hardcore player and don't have like loads of people I can run M+ with, or I can't reliably get into like heroic pugs and stuff. Then that'll be the case of, oh well, I guess I have to just get my weekly box to get me gear. Cool. That's annoying. Or I suppose I have to go and spend loads of money on legendaries, which, to be fair, all the fixes have dropped the price of them substantially. Yeah. But it's still kind of there. It's not a massive problem, but it's still a chore. It's like, man, if I could like put a little bit of effort in and then be allowed to play instead of a load of effort, that'd be nice.
And apparently there's people talking about a sword. I don't know what this shit means. I've never seen it.
No. I don't remember draining all of its energies into my Ashbringer and then seeing Ashbringer fire into the sand, never to be seen again. Don't remember that. Didn't happen.
Who bringer?
You know, Ash Ketchum, Ashbringer. Is that all I could think of? I'm a fucking idiot. Anyway, yes.
So here's the thing. There was, I think it was it Buff? It was a German site anyway.
Yeah.
They did an interview with Ian, and the response that people like tweeted and shared about was that Ian just said, "You drained it with your artifacts. It's a splinter now."
Yeah.
Thing is, we don't really know what intonation he had.
Yeah, because
to me that read as sarcasm initially, and if you look at Ian's response being, "Wait, what sword?" and even the Warcraft Twitter account tweeting "what sword" afterwards, I think we're all on the same page, and I think they probably have a plan.
Yes.
So that is Ian and Asmongold